reminds me, we have to tell people, like, we're doing this today. You had said, let's do King Lear.
Yeah.
I think people who watch these need to know that not only have I taught high school honors, world literature, AP, English, African American lit, but for 32 years.
Hmm.
I also taught at the university level, training future teachers of English. But the main thing is that I'm the president of the board of trustees of my public library, and I've been moderating book discussions 10 months out of every 12
Hmm.
for actually a little over 18 years now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So, and I do strictly world literature classics. Now, King Lear, I don't normally do English literature or American literature, mostly because people get enough of it in schools. What they don't get is a lot of world literature. And the
Hmm.
people have asked me, I remember when we had a subscription to the Metropolitan Opera for like 13, 14 years. And many of the people on the opera bus who are older and well educated always felt, they said, well, to me, well, gee, we feel we have a gap in our world literature education. Yes,
Hmm.
we've read, Shakespeare, and so I said, well, hey, I've been doing that for 3.5 decades. So, but this time I'm doing King Lear by special request of two of my book discussion members. I have on my list, I've got about 16 members, and I usually get showing up anywhere from, I would say, 8 to 12. And
Hmm.
then my last one, I just got 3 new members on my last one. So
Mm.
happening,
Your
the
subscribers are going up.
well, I think what's happening that people who come and have been regulars tell other people, and they go, "Oh, you got to this guy is a real character,"
Yeah.
and they'll say, "Hey, he really knows his stuff,
Yeah.
literature, philosophy, theology,
Exactly. Exactly. So
psychology."
you should let the people know
Yeah,
like
but
when your
the other
next
part, yeah,
class
but
is and where.
yeah, but Linda, the other part that they tell them, and I'm very, very proud of this. I'm flattered by it. They say he's really very entertaining. He makes us laugh.
Hmm.
He talks about serious literature, and he's funny. So at any rate, so but these literature conversations we may have,
Yeah.
because I moderate book discussions. So there.
You want to give them the location and address in case anybody's listening, they can meet you at the next one.
Well, yeah, I mean, if they can go to the North Shore Public Library. We service where our building is attached to the Shore and Wading River High School off 25A,
Hmm.
and we service Shore and Wading River, Rocky Point, parts of Riverhead, parts of Sound Beach, and parts of Miller Place. So we have about 32 to 35,000 registered patrons.
Awesome. And the next one's what?
October
October
5th.
5th.
October
Oh,
5th
October 5th.
is going to be this. It's going to be King Lear.
Yeah.
So I'm giving you a preview.
Yeah.
Okay.
What time?
2 o'clock. It goes from 2 o'clock in the afternoon to 3:30.
Okay. Perfect. So maybe you'll have some new people that'll pop
Yeah,
up.
so some of the people who are local Long Islanders, they might want to stop by.
Yeah.
Believe me, they'll get an education of some sort, and they will have a few yucks when they're there.
Always. Humor always helps.
Yeah, no question about it. So, and by the way, I can get started with the play, especially with a play like King Lear. King
Mhm.
Lear is probably the most nihilistic, negative, pessimistic play of Shakespeare's tragedies. I
Wow.
mean, it's really in many ways grim.
Mm.
Okay.
Mhm.
And to my mind, it's also very real and natural because it's about family dysfunction as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Okay. About a father who doesn't really know his daughters very well, who they really are, and about the Duke of Gloucester, who has 2 sons and he doesn't know them really well. And as a consequence, the evil offspring can get away with a lot of bad stuff, and the good offspring suffer until finally, at the end, their fathers realize who they really are.
Yeah.
And of course, when dealing and trying to instruct young people about this play, that's how I approach it. It's about families and about children and parents who aren't making the connections that they really should be making. But I have to say this to you: It's probably one of the most difficult of the Shakespearean plays to read. The language is very much Elizabethan. It's very dense. There's a lot of words that were of the time that modern Americans don't know. Not to mention Shakespeare always made up words. He did, and
Yeah.
he added a lot of words to the English vocabulary. But when people read it, if they're going to read Shakespeare in general, but certainly Lear in particular, they have to get editions like the Folger, Folger library editions. Like on the left hand, the dialogue of the play is on the right hand side of the book, and on the left hand side, while words and phrases that they explain that the average reader is not going to know.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that helps you get through it. That
Hmm.
helps you get through it, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just kind of feel that I don't know of anybody, of any family, if they're honest, that doesn't have family issues.
Yeah.
I had them, you've had them.
Hmm.
Almost all of my students have admitted, oh yeah, it's not all beer and Skittles with family.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I've seen it in my stepchildren's families and whatever. So you know, it's very, very common. And
Yeah.
the only thing is, I mean, there are issues here for about identity, you know, freedom of will, things that are not natural. You know, I mean, it's all kinds of stuff.
Hmm.
So, for example, I'll give you talk about not natural in medieval times and earlier times. In fact, I'm trying to think. I think I even went back to almost to the ancients. There's something known as the Great Chain of Being, capital G, capital C, capital B, the Great Chain of Being, Being. And what that says, that there's a hierarchy in the universe, hierarchy in the world, that goes from the basis, the most base mineral, okay, of the earth, on up to then it go get into the animals. So, for example, then you get cats and dogs and horses, and dogs are more important than cats, and horses are more important than dogs. And then finally, you get to human beings.
Hmm.
Okay? And in the great chain of being, humans, oddly enough, are not at the top of the chain. They're about midway in the chain because, again, in those days, they believed in angels and archangels and then ultimately God. So that meant that you had human beings, and then you had these angels, and then you had archangels, which are like more big time angels, then go God. Now, when it comes to humans, what's the hierarchy with humans? Well, you got your peasants, you know, your serfs, you got your blacksmiths, you got your like your middle classes, and then finally the big cheese is in most places would be the king.
Hmm.
King Lear is at the top of the hierarchy in the great chain of being in ancient Britain. Because now he's an ancient, he's this takes place in pre-Christian Britain. Okay. So now you have to understand that basically the plot of the play, I'll make it real fast. Lear has three daughters, okay, and he decides he's 80 years old, and he decides, you know what? I'm going to kind of retire, okay, and I'm going to divide my lands up into three pieces, and give each piece of one of my daughters, right? And that, but you know, but what he wanted to do is he said, well, okay, I'll give them this, but then I also then want to have a retinue of 100 knights, you know, with their horses and everything else. And but I'll give my daughters the lands and money. I'm keeping my title as king, okay, but basically I'm gonna be having fun with my retinue, and we're gonna hunt and we're gonna fish and we're gonna, you know, hang out. So what does he do? He says, but the condition was with his daughters. He goes, okay, uh, each one of you has to tell me how much you love me. Okay. So the names are Gonerill, Regan, and Cordelia. So Gonerill is the oldest, and she goes on, I love you this much and that much and this much, and then Regan goes and says kind of, oh, I say what my sister says, and then of course I add to that. But Cordelia says, wait a second, I love you the way I'm supposed to love you. You gave me life, you gave me this, you gave me that. and I love you that way. But she's not going overboard.
Hmm.
I love you the way a good daughter should love her father. And that wasn't good enough for Lear. And so what does he do? He banishes her.
Mm.
He says, okay, I'm going to take your piece that you were going to get, and I'm going to now split it in half and give it to your sisters, and you will banish, and he exiles her.
Hmm.
So he doesn't realize that his other two daughters are real SOBs. They're greedy, they're selfish, they're lying about how they feel because they think he's basically pretty much a doddering old fool at this point, or getting to be worse, getting to be more, And they say he doesn't know. They say he doesn't know himself. I think it's Gonerill. They agree that he doesn't know who he really is, and of course, the parallel is he doesn't know who his daughters are. So, and then of course, and the other plot, that's the main plot. The subplot is that the Duke of Gloucester and his two sons, and one of the sons, he's got Edmund and Edgar, and Edgar is his legitimate son. But Edmund is a bastard. He was the child of a woman with whom Gloucester had a roll in the hay, which was, he describes it as being, a fun roll on the hay. It was, lots of merriment, in the relationship. But Edmund is the evil one. Edmund is the greedy one, and he basically gets his father to believe that Edgar wants to kill him and take over. But so that's what you have. So those are the things. And then near the end of the play, Edmund is starting to get involved with Gonerill and Regan so that they can all take over the kingdom and what have you. So there's a lot of ugliness, and of course some very famous quotes. I forget that. How sharper than a serpent's tooth it is to have a thankless child.
Hmm.
And most parents, I think, when their children become teenagers,
Yeah.
they start to say, "Wait a second, these selfish, egotistical, narcissistic little shits." Okay,
Yeah.
all of
Yeah.
a sudden, the more I give them, the more they want. Okay, and if I don't give them, they're going to try to take it. And this is very, very common. I mean, again, I taught, mostly seniors, sometimes juniors, and it was a very common thing. Even when parents said they loved their children, they always say that, whether they did or not. they they would always say, well, but they're kind of ungrateful, and they're getting more and more rapacious with their needs and their requests. And
Hmm.
one of the famous scenes in King Lear is where he loses his mind, and he's on the heath. He's in this meadow, in England, and there's a big storm raging. There's thunder, lightning, rain. It's just horrible. And he's raging in this storm. He's going on and on and on and on. And remember, I mentioned the great chain of being.
Yeah.
Here's what that symbolizes. That scene symbolizes, because he wanted to basically retire from his kingship. He wasn't supposed to really do that. That was not in the hierarchy of being. He should never really have done that. He's the king, and it was kind of like the divine right of kings. He should never have done that. That's number one. And he goes mad. Of course, remember, he's the top of the hierarchy for human beings.
Hmm.
And so, and nature goes nuts. Why? The hierarchy has been disturbed. It's been finagled with.
Hmm.
And so nature goes ape.
Yeah.
Okay. Because the hierarchy now has been busted. It's been broken up. Okay. And so that whole scene is representative of, for the Elizabethans, the disruption of the great chain of being, and what happens when somebody does not maintain the traditions and order of the culture and things like that. Okay.
Hmm.
Now, this is something that even today, some people, in fact, I was having a conversation with the Admiral, I guess it was yesterday. We were talking about all these different horrible disasters in nature, that flood in Libya where over 11,000 people dead from a flood. 11,000 people. Are you kidding me? And
Hmm.
I think it's higher than that now.
Yeah.
They said it might be as high as over 20,000 people.
Wow.
You've got these wildfires. You've
Yeah.
got floods all over the place. You've got you've got, climate change is causing bigger, larger, more deadly hurricanes. We're getting more tornadoes. I mean, it looks like Mother Nature is rebelling because of what we have
Yeah,
done.
Mother Nature's pissed.
Yeah, because of what we've done to the planet. Okay.
Mhm.
And really, to a certain degree, in nature, there is a certain kind of hierarchy in nature.
Yeah.
And different creatures are dependent. And that's another thing in the great chain of being. Every entity in that chain is reliant in some way on somebody lower, some entity lower, and some entity higher.
Mhm.
Okay. And once you start messing with that pattern,
Mhm.
all hell breaks loose. That's like all hell breaks loose with Lear on the heath.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, it isn't until the end of the play when most of the protagonists wind up dead. Okay. And I think at the end, what you have is Edgar, the son of Gloucester, really. And I think who was it, the King of France? I forget who else, but anyway, but it doesn't really end until Lear is dead, Cordelia is dead, the other daughters are dead. It's Edmund's dead. I mean, the body count, as usual in a Shakespearean tragedy, is always high. I mean, really, it's always high.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I lost count of the bodies. I have to go through the plague, and I forgot. 6, 7, 8. I forget. Doesn't
Yeah.
make any difference.
Yeah.
Um, but this is kind of the issue is that with this great chain of being, and then also, why is Lear a tragic protagonist? In ancient Greek tragedies, the hero was according to Aristotle's definition, the hero had to have a tragic flaw.
Mhm.
Okay. And generally, the tragic flaw for most heroes like the Oedipus Rex, and a few others, and Agamemnon, that tragic flaw was always pride and arrogance. In Greek, it would have been hubris. Because of
Mhm.
hubris, they're at a great height and they fall precipitously, and
Yeah.
it's
Their ego.
whatever. So now, what happens is that uh, I can make the case that we, as a species, humanity, we have had humongous hubris that we feel, unfortunately, certainly because of the Bible, among other problems. We think that somehow we have dominion over nature,
Mhm.
animals. We're the big honchos, and we can do
Yeah.
what we want in nature and change this and change that. Well, guess what? Nature's saying, screw you.
Yep.
You're killing the planet. Ultimately, you're killing yourselves
Yep.
from because of your pride, your hubris. King Lear again. Finally, what happens is that King Lear says, okay, uh, he now understands at the very end, his daughter Cordelia loved him the most and the best. He's cradling her in his arms. And he basically, she was fearless in being who she, in her honesty. He realizes that, but it's too late. Now she's dead. And then he dies of a broken heart at the end.
Mhm.
Uh, and then, of course, Edgar realizes what a real skunk his illegitimate brother was. Okay. And and of course, Edmund created a lot of fear uh, for his father Gloucester, that, okay, his other son wanted to kill him. Okay. But the bottom line really at the end is that order was returned after Lear was mad on the heath.
Mhm.
Edmund was killed as the bad guy. That order is restored to the great chain of being. Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then people don't have to fear anything any longer,
Yeah.
because now nature has corrected itself.
Okay.
Okay? How about that?
So nature will always correct things back to the way it has to go into
Well,
balance.
here's what I learned as a surfer.
Mhm.
A, the ocean always wins.
Yeah.
Ocean is Mother Nature at its most
Yep.
ferocious, most beautiful. It's a real mixed bag. The ocean you can love it, you can look at it, it's all about it, but you need not only to, you don't have to be fearful of it, but you need to respect it,
Respect it. Yep.
understand what that's all about. And nature, we're not, too many people in this culture do not respect nature.
Yeah.
Uh, and all I can tell you is that going back to the great chain of being, once you see that Mother Nature always wins, the
Mm-hmm.
ocean always wins, and as long as you come to respect it and respect the order that it represents on the planet, we'll all be better off. How
Love
about?
it.
And
Love
I
it.
think that's how we're going to end this.
I love it. Sounds good.
Oh,
Thank
it's
you.
fun. I miss doing these for a while, you know.
I know. We should just do it. I told you we should do like a 30-day, Monday through Friday, a book.
Now,
All right.
all right, sweetie. See
Bye.
you. Bye. Bye now.